What's up, you guys? It's Steve here. We have breaking news coming out that it is official. Overnight, the attacks on Ukraine from Russia have started, and I'm going to be sharing with you all of the events that have unfolded overnight. As we've heard the siren sound, there has been explosions, and we're hearing tanks are crossing into the border, and we're hearing the world is responding today. Take a look, you guys. Explosions and sirens in Kiev as Russia invades Ukraine. Russia-Ukraine crisis has Western companies bracing for sanctions hits, which we are hearing are going to be announced throughout the course of the day today. President Biden is expected to speak at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on additional sanctions and what the U.S. will do as a response to what's unfolding. And stocks sink and oil prices jump to 105 as markets reel from Russia's attack on Ukraine, and we're seeing already that the futures are saying that it is going to be a red day as the world responds to everything that is going on. So you guys have got a lot of video footage. Let's just go ahead and dive right in, get you caught up as to everything that has unfolded overnight.
Trying to keep people calm, trying to keep people from panicking in what is, and there we go. I've just heard the first siren has just gone off. And I've been told by city officials that that indicates that this is a city under attack. That, again, is the first time we have heard sirens in the capital, Kyiv.
I just want to hold on there for a second, because you've been hearing explosions now for a couple of hours, and we were asking about these sirens. You said they'd been tested. Let's just listen. The sirens are now underway in Kyiv. The sirens are sounding to indicate that the city of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, is under attack. We have had reports of missiles and explosions. Let's listen for a moment. All right, those are the sirens we had been listening for. Aaron, stand by for a second. I want to go to Richard. There we go. There's the sirens again. Aaron, we had
been wondering, Ali.
Go ahead.
Yes. No, we had been wondering why we hadn't heard sirens. We all heard the explosions. We were wondering where the sirens were. I've been told by city officials that they had tested this system earlier in the week. They said it was working, and now, hours into this attack, we are now hearing this siren system alerting people that this attack is underway. Ali.
Mike Memoli is in Washington, D.C. Mike, you were reporting to us that you and your colleagues had heard that the president was talking to Volodymyr Zelensky. Now we have heard that Volodymyr Zelensky has released a video of himself talking about the fact that there is going to be martial law. We're hearing explosions. We're hearing sirens in Kyiv. We're hearing, as you just heard with Richard Engel, an explosion in Mariupol. What is happening in the White House?
We just got a new statement, Ali, from the White House on the president's call with President Zelensky, and I'll just read it to you directly. He says, it's interesting, Ali, having read so many of these foreign leader readouts, I will stay at the front. The sort of more casual language in this president's statement, which I think speaks to how quickly they wanted to get this out. President Zelensky, Biden says in this statement, reached out to me tonight, and we just finished speaking. I condemned this unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russian military forces. I briefed him on the steps we are taking to rally international condemnation, including tonight at the United Nations Security Council. Biden saying that Zelensky asked me to call on the leaders of the world to speak out clearly against President Putin's flagrant aggression and to stand with the people of Ukraine. Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the leaders of the G7 and the United States, and our allies and partners will be imposing severe sanctions on Russia. That statement there making explicit what was implied by the earlier White House statements tonight, that the president will be, as promised, escalating beyond the sanctions that he had announced just about 31 hours ago, Ali, at this point. It was interesting. We had been hearing all along, this is now really almost 3 months in which the White House has been promising swift and severe sanctions on Russia if it were to go ahead with the invasion. At the earliest indications of that invasion, a little over 24 hours ago, they took that initial step, the banking sanctions, the sanctions on Russian oligarchs, the severing of Nord Stream 2, essentially. Now the White House and the president explicitly in this statement saying they will indeed go further now that Vladimir Putin has gone further. And we'll wait and see and try to work our White House sources to see if they'll be able to share what exactly those sanctions might be. We have some indication of what was on the table, sort of export controls, trying to limit Russia's ability to get imports, critical imports from the West, from the United States for its manufacturing sector, for instance, potentially even sanctions on Putin directly. But we won't get ahead of what the White House has planned at this point.
But we are going to hear from the White House. We're going to hear from the president after he's had the conversation with the G7 leaders.
That's right. That's right. The president speaking tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with his G7 counterparts. And then in the early afternoon was what the White House has told us at this point. The president will address the nation. I
want to bring Erin McLaughlin back in. She's in Kyiv. She's been up listening to the explosions going off, the air raid sirens, and is now gathering a lot of information about what is happening in that city. A lot of people woke up this morning, Erin, to a world very different than the one they went to sleep in.
Yeah, that's right, Ali. It is calm right now. It's been 2 hours since we heard the last explosion and an hour since we heard the last siren. We are now hearing, however, from an advisor to the Minister of the Interior saying that tanks are crossing the border from Belarus into Ukraine. A live stream apparently shows a stream of tanks at the Sankivka crossing. I was at that crossing some 3 weeks ago. It's a remote crossing. It essentially marks the intersection of Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. I was there speaking to the Border Patrol guards there, and one of the guards told me that she has been instructed if she sees anything to call the Ukrainian military. The issue, of course, being in that portion of the country, for years now, Ukraine has only known peace with Belarus. It is only until recently that Belarus has assumed a hostile position toward Ukraine, and most of the Ukrainian military have been trained on the eastern portion of the country and the war raging in Donbas. So the northern border has been identified as a point of vulnerability. I've spoken to Ukrainian military experts about it. They were aware of it. They were trying to mitigate that. They were conducting exercises in recent weeks along the northern border. I think the question now, given that tanks are crossing from Belarus across the border into Ukraine, is how will the Ukrainian military respond? It is not clear at this point, and it is worth noting that that border crossing is about a 3.5-hour drive from where I'm standing now, Ali.
Do we have any clarity on, are those Russian troops coming in from Belarus, or are those Belarusian troops coming in from Belarus, or do we not know?
It is unclear at this time. And all I have right now is tanks are being seen crossing the border. It's unclear if it is from Russian troops or Belarusian troops. But also unclear if they're coming to Kyiv. But they're certainly headed in the direction of the capital. Meanwhile, here in the capital, people continue to evacuate the highway going west to the western portion of the country, which is widely seen as the safest place to be at this point, is completely jammed. This is a city under martial law. Schools are closed today. Hospitals, the entire medical system is on a state of heightened alert. We're also hearing that they're working to open up the shelters. Speaking to city officials, they have enough shelters here for about 2.8 million people. At night, there's about 3.5 million in the city. So we are also hearing reports that when those sirens were going off, directing people to get to the shelters, many of the shelters were completely packed.
Wow.
So this is a really scary and terrifying situation for the people here in Kyiv. It is worth noting that up until this point, the government has been downplaying this threat and speaking to experts in the buildup to where we are now, and they were critical of that. They said that, you know, while, yes, you want to maintain calm, you don't want people to panic, you also need to inform your population as what to do in the event of the worst case scenario. And I can tell you, Ali, right now, this certainly appears to be the worst case scenario, which is an all-out, full-scale invasion of this country.
You have some bad news to report. This is from one of our fixers, the people who help us translate and understand what's going on in Ukraine. She says that in the city of Podolsk, There was a bombing, 6 dead, 7 wounded, 19 missing. This is the city of Podolsk. It is the first reports that we've had so far of casualties from the early morning aggression, the early morning bombing in multiple cities across Ukraine.
With sanctions. Chris Murphy, who went to the region, Ukraine, a couple of weeks ago, saying that the world is on knife's edge. Now is the time to impose full sanctions, to release the full American and Western might against President Putin of Russia before we see potential harm being done against the U.S. as well. Cyber attacks. One of your guests was talking about that a couple of weeks ago. I was struck when relevant committee chairs emerged from a meeting briefed by administration officials, saying that that is one of the things that they fear in the coming weeks that President Putin might do against the U.S. Now, as they return next week, we've heard sort of little bits and pieces of legislation and these odd pairings from Lindsey Graham to Senator Portman and Chris Murphy on certain things that they can do. Graham this week said very forcefully that he wants to see sanctions from hell next week when they get back into D.C., and there's no indication that they're going to come back any sooner. In fact, I'm told that there's going to be 2 briefings conducted by phone tomorrow from key administration officials, Anthony Blinken, Secretary Lloyd Austin, to the House and Senate, all members unclassified, of course, because it's over the phone, and they are not here, so we'll see what they learn tomorrow.